right, so we have got a very special guest today. We have the legend John from Rockstar and Moon. John, I really appreciate you being here. Do you mind giving me a quick introduction about you and the company?
Yeah, thanks, Ethan. I really appreciate being here myself. We're a real small agency. We focus on digital marketing, digital strategy, really help people with their brand and building up their online persona, their websites, their social profiles and such, and then help them try to increase their sales and build pipelines for clients. And we focus primarily on B2B, so it works really well with the service that we have with you guys.
Fantastic. And just for context for everyone watching, John is an absolute legend when it comes to sales, and his co-founder, Rachel, she's a phenomenal marketer and operator too. And John and Rachel came on about 8 months ago, I think at this point, and they've been one of our favorite partners ever since then. Just so that everyone watching can get some context. Before working with us, what was the current state of the business?
Well, we were pretty flat in sales. Pretty much everything was coming through referrals, personal networks. We did have one sort of generic lead gen service that we were using back then, and it was okay, but the clients were all over the board, and so it was difficult for us to really hone in our operations and just become a scalable business in that way. And that's when we decided to interview you, and frankly, we interviewed like 4 or 5 different agencies, similar to you, some of your competitors and such, and ended up going with you.
Fantastic. And we're glad you did. And just to recap that, so the state of the agency, you were mainly growing from referrals, growing from word of mouth. You guys had a great service, right? That wasn't a
Yeah.
problem. It is just unpredictable with that word of mouth and referrals up and down. And you were also working with a generic lead gen company.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we weren't really able to get any traction on our own lead gen internally, and we had tried a couple of other agencies or freelancers, to build leads for us and just do a paper lead or paper call type of a situation, and it just didn't work. Not one of them really panned out for anything more than a client or two.
Got it. And why do you think those didn't work?
I think that's a good question. I think a lot of it was strategy. I think some of it was capability on their end. And, I think that, one of the things that you guys have really hammered on us is niche and identifying niche and focusing on niche, not just the people that we're going after, but the types of problems we're trying to solve and the types of solutions we're trying to bring to market. And hammering on that, I think, is what made a big difference with you guys.
That's a great point, focusing on the niche, because
Mhm.
I remember, and I see it all the time, you guys have such great case studies, but you were targeting so many different types of people. I'm sure it
Yeah.
added a lot of complexity in the actual business.
Well, it's funny you mentioned the case studies because, before you guys came along, we had very few. We had some logos on our website and we had, a couple of comments and things. And we had great reviews on Google, great reviews on Facebook, that type of thing. But we didn't really put case studies together for ourselves. We did it all the time for our clients, but never for ourselves. And you guys actually got us to do those first video case studies. And since then, we've just kind of run with it. And it's been great. Because you're right, we do have happy clients. We are able to provide a good service. And now we're able to leverage that because we know how to leverage it.
100%. You guys were sitting on so many happy relationships, so many great results that just weren't actually documented and used in the market. And
Yeah.
one of the things I wanted to ask was, obviously you tried lead gen agencies, but the inflow was predictable. What were some of the problems that came from the lack of predictability of the lead flow and the sales?
Well, you end up with different types of clients who need different types of services. So when it comes to being a small agency, we don't have a lot of people on staff. So we don't have a large breadth of capability on staff outside of, us as founders. And so, Rachel, in being our head of operations and our marketer on staff, she ends up doing the lion's share of the work, and that's just not scalable. It's not sustainable. But because we were able to standardize that and we were able to, focus on a specific niche and hone in the service that we were offering, we're now able to scale people internally, which then, brings the additional ability to scale from sales perspective and all of that.
That's such a good point. And a lot of people, or at least when we first met, it wasn't the case that you had no clients, you were making no money. You guys were established. Right, you are great at what you do, so you had the business already. But a lot of people in that situation, they would just be okay with staying where they are. What were the actual drivers from your and Rachel's end to actually want to, solve the problem of acquisition?
Well, at the end of the day, we wanted to scale up to the point where we had enough resources underneath us and enough
Mm,
profit coming in the door every month that we could actually take vacation and enjoy it.
mm,
That was our primary goal, was to get to that point, have some comfort level with the business. Because before that, we were working, Rachel works 12, 14-hour days. I put in a lot of time on sales, and it was difficult. It was hard for us to get away, because when we get away, if we had to leave or something, for a few days, then
mm.
everything stops. And we just want to get out of that rut and get to the point where we have a real business and are able to move forward that way.
Completely. So if you were to leave, take vacation, for example, everything would be reliant on you and it would just stop. All
Yeah.
right. So just to recap it's really useful and I think very useful for the people watching because a lot of them are facing the problem of acquisition
Yeah.
and realizing that if they can solve that first problem of getting the predictable bookings in, it will lead to all the secondary benefits of, for example, being able to remove themselves from a lot of the tasks.
Just one thing there. So it's not so much the fact that we're just selling more, right? That's
Yeah.
great. It's always great to have more money. It's about getting the right clients in.
Ah,
And what I mean by that is it's clients who fit the mold that you're trying to build and scale
yeah.
on, right? That's what you really want. And you have to do that if you because if we just kept selling random clients and random types of clients, we're just exacerbating the problem. It's not making it
Yeah.
any better. Yeah, we're making more money, but that we're working harder and harder and harder. And that's just it's not the American dream. So, what we really wanted was to be able to scale a company. And you can't do that unless you're able to, streamline your operations and streamline what you're doing.
That is such a good point. I'm so glad you mentioned that because it's what so many people face. So that's the prelude. That's what is happening before the entire partnership. What do you think were some of the most beneficial things that we worked on together that had the biggest impact for you?
Case studies, as I mentioned before, that was huge for us.
Hmm.
Identifying our niche and really focusing and honing in on that niche and the messaging around it was huge for us. I think those are probably the two biggest. And then since then, as we've started to grow, you guys have helped us in a lot of ways, just from an operational perspective as well, giving us tips, helping coach us through streamlining some of the things that we're doing, automating some of the things that we were doing, which is kind of a byproduct of having more success and more sales, right? But also very necessary. So I think you put those three together, and it's been a huge boon to our business.
Perfect. So you start with the case studies, start with identifying who your niche is, who you're helping, then getting in front of them. I mean, once you get in front of them, you specifically, they just start closing. So then the next byproduct is just dealing with all these clients now. That's fantastic.
You keep saying that I'm a great closer, but you made it so easy for me. I show up to calls and I talk to people and listen to them. They're already set up because of the messaging and the outreach you guys are doing. They're already set up. So it's you guys have just made what I thought was a very challenging task into something that was actually pretty simple.
I'm glad to hear that. That's fantastic. And then in terms of the results that you've achieved, I think it's been around 8 months now. What were some of the major outcomes that you guys were able to get?
So it's a great question. I think the best one for me is that our MRR right now that we have every month is more than double our average average monthly invoicing, total invoicing for last year. So from when we started. So, and that MRR doesn't include one-off projects. It doesn't include some of our longer-term clients that have been with us for a while that we bill hourly. It doesn't include brand new clients that we add that month and that initial monthly revenue. That MRR doesn't kick in until the next month in my calculation. So, from that perspective, you can just see how much more comfortable we are because of having that MRR every month that we can count on.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. Ever since you guys have came on, you've also grown a ton in terms of, everything, honestly. You guys have also hired some new team members right now as well, put in a ton of new systems.
We had one person, I think, when we started with you guys helping us, and now we have 4, which is great. So now we're able to, me and Rachel are able to step back a little bit and just kind of like enjoy, work with clients one-on-one, work on strategy, and let our team handle a lot of the details.
All right. And then, because I know you are very ambitious, what's next for you guys, let's say in the next 6 to 12 months?
We want to double again, at least. That would be ideal. I would like to get, yeah, I mean, if we can double that MRR number again, I think that would be pretty ideal. That would get us to where we want to hit our goals for the next really 2 to 3 years. And then we'll kind of, I think that's about maximum that we would want to get to as far as our comfort level and the size of team that we'll have, and our ability to, impact our clients directly, because that's still important to us. So we don't want to get too big, but once we hit that number, I think we'll be pretty happy.
That's
So
fantastic.
more work to do, Ethan. We're not done yet.
Yeah. I'm glad. I'm glad. That's fantastic. A question that I get very often is around the lead flow. Like, what actually happens once you solve that problem? Do you mind, from your perspective of someone who's solved the problem and who knows how to solve it now, what actually happens after you solve the lead flow problem?
Well, after that, for me personally, being on the sales end of our business, lead flow is just step one, right? Once you get that lead flow down and you have a predictable number of leads and the type of leads, and you understand that, then you can really fine tune the sales process. So you can fine tune the scripts you're using to talk to people. You can fine tune the type of questions that you're asking, the way that you're presenting not only the capabilities of your business, but your proposals. You can start to really hone in on the details there, and dealing with objections, dealing with pricing, dealing with all kinds of things. And as you get better at that, then you're able to increase your value to your clients, right, long term, because you're better able to articulate what that value is, which then provides more room for your business as well.
So by solving the lead flow problem, the next one you're going to have is sales. But because you have that flow, you're able to actually get a lot of data in the system, optimize the smaller things, tonality, where you present, objections, questions that you get, and just figure out how to provide more value in terms of presenting to the actual prospects.
Yeah. And it's also important to note that with this, having consistent lead flow with the right types of clients that are consistent in terms of the problems that they have and what you're trying to solve for, that's huge. Because before, we were getting a lot of leads, they were just all random. They were all over the place. And so you're always kind of, you're always playing catch up or reacting to, what you're hearing when you get on the phone with somebody, or, a few minutes before the meeting when you prep. And so it was always a challenge. And the data you're getting, while you can get some macro data out of it, it's not great for handling the details like objections and the proposal details that you really need. So having the deal flow in a way that's consistent and predictable with not only the numbers, but the type of clients is huge, because you can then take advantage of those little details, and that's what really moves the needle.
Small details in the sales process, like those real deep understandings of the prospects, and you can get that because you're going after the same people and having the same conversations every day.
I'd rather have 5 leads that match my ideal client than 30 leads that don't every single day, right? And that's what we're going with a service like yours really did for us. We don't have the quantity of leads, but the quality is so much better. And so because of that, we're able to grow so much better.
Absolutely. And once you figure out the process once, so you don't have to figure it out again. You're just doing the same thing. You just keep optimizing.
And eventually, we can, add another service to our repertoire, maybe go after a different type of client or something along those lines, and you just repeat the same process.
And that's what I love about it, because even if anything did happen, you would still have the exact process on how we did it. So the problem's solved for life. No matter what happens, that will never be a problem again, which is, I think it's a very comforting feeling just knowing that. One question out of curiosity, because you work with other lead gen, agencies in the past, you had one, you were talking to many before working with us. What actually made you choose us?
Honestly, I think a lot of it was you and the way that you presented, the way that you reached out to us, and the messaging that you used, because it wasn't the first message you sent me that I replied to. Right? It never is. It's one of the tricks that I use now, and I used it back then without really knowing why, but now I know. When you're the target of cold email, make sure you get through their entire funnel, their entire email list, so that you can get all the data and you can see all the messages and see what they're really about. That's huge for me now. But anyway, so the way that you reached out to us, the way that you handled our calls, the way that you handled my objections, the way that you presented the material and such. Just was very professional. It was very well done. It was very thought out. And in the back of my mind, I'm just thinking, this is the kind of guy I can learn from. It's the kind of guy that I think can really help my business. And that is what is more important to me than pricing or any sort of guarantee or anything like that.
That's fantastic. You are an absolute legend, John. I really appreciate your time. It was great having this conversation, like usual. Looking forward to helping with doubling the MRR. Thanks for coming on.
Let's do it.